It's my pleasure to introduce Sierra Lowry, Program Director at the Center for Safe Alaskans, and Dorothy Stiles, Director of Business Development of Communities and Schools of Atlanta.
We're going to tell you a story about a powerful collaborative partnership between two nonprofit organizations working to support youth. This collaboration was transformative for adult leaders because it fueled remarkable shifts in the quality of service to youth by focusing on adult social-emotional learning. This experience is an example of what can happen when there's authentic community collaboration and partnerships. I'm Dorothy Stiles.
I'm Sierra Lowry.
I work with Communities and Schools of Atlanta.
I work with Center for Safe Alaskans.
We're a nonprofit that partners with schools to provide wraparound services to students and families.
We house Anchorage Youth Development Coalition, which supports adults who work with young people in school and out.
I'm a baby boomer.
I'm a millennial.
I work in the Deep South.
My work is in the far north.
I'm of African American origin.
I'm of European American origin.
I studied political science.
I studied education systems.
I'm a parent.
No kids.
So then, what do we have in common? Well, we both want to do our best work for the organizations and youth that we serve. We both believe and understand that to change outcomes for youth, the adults serving them must first know themselves. Programs don't change children. Relationships with caring adults do. Knowing this, we got to work.
In Anchorage, our first step was to offer social-emotional professional development for adults. We did it because conversations and surveys were telling us adults working with young people need opportunities to practice and strengthen our own social and emotional learning skills. We heard this from people in schools and outside of schools, after school, juvenile justice, runaway and homeless youth spaces, leadership programs. We gathered all of these experts into an advisory group. Cook Inlet Tribal Council was one of the partners at the table. It turned out they wanted to fund the whole thing, so we began. We talked to local and national thought leaders to find an adult SEL curriculum for people working with children and youth both in school and out. No luck. So the advisory group built one module at a time with 3 pilot cohorts. One cohort was adults working directly with young people, a second, program managers of nonprofits, and a third, their CEOs who set the tone for the places those staff worked. At the end of each module and each cohort, we gathered data from the perspective of our participants, and we continued to improve. Finally, we ended up with this curriculum featuring 6 weekly 3-hour learning sessions that connect the day-to-day work of each participant to specific SEL competency development. You might wonder how a group from various community organizations work together productively to accomplish this. We use the same practices and principles in our meetings that we were building into our curriculum, adult SEL. That looked like agendas with inclusive openings, working agreements, varying between pair shares, group share-outs, quiet individual reflection time, and so on. We did this in the planning meetings. And it worked because it was participatory. The people who were going to be impacted were the ones who were involved in designing it. Now, several years in, and still learning, through the experience together in our community, we've added a virtual adaptation and a training of trainers.
While all that was happening in Alaska, in metropolitan Atlanta, schools were beginning to focus on students' social-emotional learning to enhance student success. Our then Director of Development, Zachary Brown, attended a conference where he heard Sierra speak about adult SEL. Zach was so impressed with their work and believed that CIS Atlanta would benefit from their training. So later that night, he went back to his hotel room and began writing a grant proposal. When we received the funding, our collaboration was born.
In Anchorage, we were so excited and made plans to work together for the first ever training of trainers, a hybrid model. We worked together for a year beginning fall 2018. First, Atlanta came to Anchorage to work face-to-face, And then we worked together via Zoom before the pandemic. To wrap it up, we then went to Atlanta to be with Dorothy's team as they started leading the learning experience for their staff.
This was 9 months of real learning because it was professional development where staff were fully engaged and looked forward to each session. We initially thought 3 hours per session was way too long, but every 2-hour session went well over time. This training sparked an awakening and an awareness of the importance of adults focusing on their own social and emotional competencies and well-being. When it came for our team in Atlanta to host a team from Alaska, we were excited. We too were looking forward to being together again face to face. This time the Alaskan team would experience the ATL. Their visit was a time to celebrate because after 9 months of training and time spent together, we in Atlanta were prepared and eager to now deliver the 9-month adult SEL training to our entire team. What made this experience powerful was it was unlike any professional development experience I had had in 30+ years. Communities and Schools of Atlanta was my first organization where staff was provided dedicated time to focus on their own social-emotional learning. In this training, we focused on our values and beliefs through the SEL lens and used this learning to positively impact our colleagues and the youth we serve. As a result, staff discovered and in some cases rediscovered inner truths about their own social-emotional learning. This professional learning experience forced us each to re-examine our own individual experiences, served to reinforce our commitment to our organization and to support youth development. When learning touches something within you, transformation takes place. It is learning and understanding that leads to knowledge and changes in behavior. And we all know that to do better, one must first know themselves better.
It's rewarding to know the experience had so much value. Becoming friends and colleagues, I personally learned so much from you, Dorothy. Your way of being boldly yourself, your life force, is part of my inspiration to be my authentic self in all spaces. We had something we were doing in Anchorage and wondered how relevant it was outside of Anchorage. Working together was the catalyst to expand. It was our partnership that gave us the chance to see what was useful and what could change to make it relevant for more people. Something we didn't do then that I would do now is talk about how me and my co-facilitator being white and you and your team being black might affect the learning experience. How could we actively break systems of oppression in the way we did this learning experience together? I think the SEL practices we used in the process helped create an equitable space, and I think having that conversation would have done so even better. We also found that the curriculum has made a measurable impact with our participants in Anchorage. Even in the pilot year, evaluation showed growth in SEL skills for those who were participating. And deeper analysis showed it wasn't by chance either. The more someone participated, the more their skills grew. Each year, we gather stories of impact, how this learning experience has translated into real changes to participants' work, supporting young people, or managing staff.
When there's true collaboration, the result is sustained partnerships. Sierra, you are forever my colleague in the truest sense of the word. Our work together really exemplified true diversity, equity, and inclusion. Having the opportunity to present with you again today is yet another highlight of our collaboration and organizational partnership. And now that we've shared our story with you, the audience, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Professional development that includes an intentional focus on adult social and emotional learning is essential. Today's climate in workplaces and schools demands the need for healthy social-emotional learning, thus further substantiating that the adult SEL training that communities and schools of Atlanta experience with Safe Alaskans remains relevant. Our present reality reminds us that when adults know and embrace who they really are, colleagues and the youth they serve benefit. Youth then receive the best of adults, giving them a necessary thread to create their own unique and beautiful tapestry.
We close today by sharing one example of a resource from our collaboration. It's a virtual SEL reflection deck you just saw up on the screens, which is freely available. Castle will send you the link to it after this event. We use these questions in a variety of ways in almost every session of the professional learning course. We love them, and we hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you.